Welcome back. We are continuing our discussion on probability, and we have a question on the board. Mutola and Mwambi were selected as members of a netball team. The probability of selecting Mutola is 7 out of 8, and that of selecting Mwambi is 9 out of 10. Find the probability that, number 1, only one of them is selected, 3 marks. None of them is selected, 2 marks. Okay. Looking at part 1, we need to know the probabilities for the 2 individuals. Coming to Mutola, we need to know the probability of selecting Mutola, and we also need to know the probability of not selecting Mutola. Okay, we need to do the same to Mwambi. We need to know the probability of selecting Mwambi, and also we need to know the probability of not selecting Mwambi. Okay. We know all these, each one of these probabilities will be given as a fraction, as a proper fraction, where we have the denominator and the numerator. And we are given already some of the probabilities. We are told that the probability of selecting Mutola is 7 out of 10. So probability selecting Mutola is 7 out of 8. And because the probability of selecting Mutola is 7 out of 8, we also need to use this one to produce the probability of not selecting Mutola. Now the way we do it, we shall say, since we are just looking at 2 scenarios here, selecting Mutola and not selecting Mutola. So whenever you are looking at 2 scenarios, and we know that the total probabilities of all items under discussion is always 1. So since we have the probability of selecting Mutola as 7 out of 8, finding the probability of not selecting Mutola, all we need to do is to say 1 minus 7 out of 8. And when we say 1 minus 7 out of 8, we shall get a 1 out of 8, and this is the probability of not selecting Mutola. So we need to do the same to Mwambi, and we are given the probability of selecting Mwambi as 9 out of 10, and we should use this one to get the probability of not selecting Mwambi by also saying 1 minus 9 out of 10, and here we shall get 1 out of 10. Okay, so we have all the necessary probabilities, because actually the question is talking about selecting and not selecting. Okay, so since we have the probability of selecting Mutola and the probability of not selecting Mutola, also the probability of selecting Mwambi, and also the probability of not selecting Mwambi, we can now come up with combinations of what we are likely to face according to the question that we are given. Now, when we look at the first case here, Find the probability that only one of them is selected. We have to find the probability that only one of them is selected. Now, coming up with combinations. When Mutola is selected, it means Mwambi will not be selected. So that's one combination. When Mutola is selected, here this one is the probability of selecting Mutola. So we need to come up with combinations. When Mutola is selected, it means Mwambi will not be selected. So this one is the probability of not selecting Mwambi. Because the issue here is about selecting just one of them, not both. It's the probability of selecting one of them. So the first combination is about selecting Mutola. So now when Mutola is selected, then the implication is that Mwambi is not selected. So that's one combination. The other combination is that when Mwambi is selected, it means Mutola is not selected. So that's the other combination. Okay, so once we know these combinations, then we are almost done with this question, because there are just those two scenarios. When Mutola is selected, then it means Mwambi is not selected. The other scenario is that when Mwambi is selected, so because this probability is for selecting Mwambi, so when Mwambi is selected, then it means Mutola is not selected. This is the probability of not selecting Mutola. So those are just the two combinations that we have to consider under Roman numeral 1. Okay, now coming to the calculations, let's handle the first combination. Probability selecting Mutola is 7 out of 8 multiplied by probability not selecting Mwambi, it's 1 out of 10. So the first combination is done. Second combination, probability selecting Mwambi, it's 9 out of 10. And the probability not selecting Mutola is 1 out of 8. Okay, so that's that. So this will give us, we shall say 7 by 1 is 7, and 8 by 10 will give us 80, plus, and we shall say 9 by 1 will give us 9, and 10 by 8 will give us 80. Finally, since the denominator is the same, we shall maintain the denominator, and we shall say 7 plus 9, and this is giving us 16. Now we know there is a number that goes into 16 4 times, and that number is 4. So when we say 4 into 16, we are getting 4, and 4 into 80, we are getting 20, and again 4 can go into 4 and 20. 4 into 4 is 1, and 4 into 5 is into 20 is 5. So finally, the probability that only one of them is selected is 1 out of 5. Okay, let's look at the other case now. The other case is talking about none of them is selected. So when we look at this case, none of them is selected, we are looking at just one combination. So the combination that we are looking at is probability not selecting Mutola and the probability not selecting Mwambi, because we are told that none of them is selected. So once we are told that none of them is selected, then it means we need just to look at the probabilities of not selecting Mwambi and that of not selecting Mutola. There is no other combination under this case apart from this one. So all we need to say, we need to look at the probability of not selecting Mutola. The probability not selecting Mutola is 1 out of 8 multiplied by the probability of not selecting Mwambi is 1 out of 10. Okay, so when we multiply this one, we have 1 out of, this is 1 out of 8. So the probability that none of them is selected is coming to 1 out of 80. So basically, this is how we handle this particular question. Subscribe to my channel, Matete Chansa. Like the videos, share with your colleagues. Take your time to study the videos, listen to the videos. When you listen to the videos, you are going to get the concepts clearly. Thank you very much once again.